Ladies and gentlemen, hello and welcome. And today we're going to be looking at Genshin Impact revenue. Now, I'm using the gacha revenue charts. Again, these are not super accurate, and also these are for mobile. Now, I feel like these are a pretty good representation for Genshin Impact because Genshin Impact as a game is not super mechanical, and they've built it in a way where it can run pretty decent on a potato phone. So it'll be kind of accurate, mostly accurate. Its PC player base is a lot smaller, unlike WooWa, where I think it's the opposite, where people mainly play on PC. WooWa's mobile revenue is not really a good metric for how much money it's actually making, but rather the general trend of the game, whether people are as engaged as previous patch. I think you can use that as a metric, but not necessarily its revenue. For Genshin, we pretty accurately can. And we have another chart. However, that is only showing the iOS China market. But we can get a rough idea of what sold. If something sold in China, mobile, iOS, it probably sold relatively at the same degree across other avenues. We'll see the exact comparison for mobile revenue starting in 2023, but let's just sort of see. Okay, so the Raiden Shogun sold a lot. It sold a lot. Just on iOS on China, it sold a lot. And to give you perspective, right now Sandrone sold 55 million, combining global and China mobile revenue. This is just iOS on China for Raiden Shogun. Nothing really reached like the Yelan Shogun levels. Okay, now let's take a look at revenue chart. Okay, so we have the numbers for, again, these numbers are pretty high for Genshin Impact. But then again, this is global. We only saw China's numbers, and you also, before you start comparing to Genshin you compare to WooWa, guys, WooWa's revenue is mainly on PC. I guarantee you. Okay, so we're looking for May of 2025. No, 23. May of 23. Okay, so 33 million from just global. I'm pretty sure this was mainly driven by Ayaka. Yoimiya was not that popular. It was mainly Yae Miko. So Yae Miko generating $34 million. Okay, June, Alhaitham, and Kazuha. I think that was his third rerun at the point, so it makes sense. We're not going to go over each month and review. We're mainly looking to see what the highlights were. What were the patches where everyone lost their collective mind and their total people losing their shit? September of 23, a lot of people were excited. Hu Tao and Nouvelette. Okay, that makes a lot of sense. Okay, so September and October. Okay. Who was alongside Risley? Risley was Venti? Okay. Again, those two in the US at least did really well. This was all Nouvelette, this was all Risley. Pretty good. Pretty good. November. We have a very big update. I wonder who came out in November. Furina. Furina sold really well. Furina did numbers. Furina did really well. 53 million, 29. And this is just, you have to remember, this is just global revenue. This is not China's. We don't know. No, we do know. At least the iOS market, roughly 39 million. So Furina easily made almost 100 million on her launch, which is crazy. Then 4.3. I'm curious who this was. Because this was Lantern, right? The whole community lost its collective mind here. April, Arlecchino. Arlecchino sold a lot lower than I thought she would have, considering she power crept 2 Tau. Ah. You're starting to see, yeah, the China numbers are a lot higher. China global, okay? A lot higher. So in February and March, really nothing too crazy, like Chiori. But then Arlecchino did not sell It's wild to think that like Xinyan sold as much as Arlecchino on global, but China loved Arlecchino. This is all Arlecchino. Nouvelette's first rerun and Arlecchino. Oh, Genshin made money. Okay, so this, again, at this point in April of 24, we're looking at this, right? Arlecchino and Nouvelette made them a fuck ton of money. Okay, and then we look at the following months. It's pretty average. 30, 19, 24. No super hype unit. We're not looking at like increases or decreases because it's all character preference. So 23, okay. Now this. What released in January of 2025? What was released in January that broke the Mavuika and Sitlali? Now what's funny is on global, this revenue is matching very closely to the release of Arlecchino, but at the same time, 82 from Arlecchino and the rerun of Nouvelette. Only 55 million. So Mavuika, while she did sell very well in the United States, she did sell very well in China.
Julian!
It's not as exciting or as awe-inspiring as Arlecchino or Nouvelette at the time, right? At the time. Now this is interesting because this is the second half of last year and this year. And this can paint a very good picture. Again, these numbers are a lot lower than Genshin was averaging 2 years ago, right? Whoa, December of 2022? Who the hell released in December of 2022? Wanderer and like 2020, end of 22, end of 23 was like peak Genshin in terms of revenue, right? 32, 39, 30, 31, right? They were hitting 30 very consistently. Then we start to get into, then again, 24, 37. On average, it started to go down in like the low 20s, low to like anywhere in the 20s, and then it stayed there. And then in not long, Mavuika really kicked it up a notch. Skirk did alright, you know. This used to be average Genshin. Now this is a well-performing Genshin banner. This is pretty bad. This is pretty bad for Genshin standards. Like, it's a lot lower than they used to make. A lot lower. And then after that, I'm trying to look for anything that like really stands out. Here in October of 2025, Genshin had another Skirk level success. Nefer and Farina. Nefer and Arlecchino. Okay. So Nefer did really well. This is mainly Nefer because like this version did come out in like end of October and maybe a little bit of Luna 1's rerun. But nothing too crazy, right? 12 million, 20, 30. This is like, it's sad that this is like peak Genshin now. Like, this is where Genshin does the best. Columbina! So Columbina did really well. Okay. 25, 19, 16. Again, these are still really good numbers per Genshin. But you can see, like, Global's revenue like kind of fell off until May, and then even with CN like 29, 29, 23, 24, it took, I'm pretty sure, July of this year was, again, Sandrone. So Sandrone did really well in China. It did pretty good in the US, but in, like, again, you can sort of see by their historical revenue that, like, they were at their peak during, again, we don't know the actual peak. We don't see behind there. But this is Fontaine. This was all Fontaine. Like, March 2024. Yeah. March 2024. This was like peak Genshin, right? Again, April of 2024, Arlecchino. And then we look here, and then their next peak came with Mavuika. Nowhere near. Right? And since Mavuika, they've never been able to hit their number. And Mavuika was the camel that broke the whatever the frick, camel's back or whatever. So yeah, pretty interesting. You can sort of see where Genshin really started to lose a lot of its revenue and why the game in a way has kind of fallen off. You know, even if you were to look at like Google Trends, right? Because Google Trends can show you the interest of a game. You know, you compare it to other gacha games, yes, it's still pretty high. Because it's, you know... But you can't... Genshin is like that cockroach you can't kill. Mother... Right. If you look at, the past 5 years... Okay, I think maybe like... This is a better image, right? This was launch. They reached a pretty good peak, and then since then it's been going down, right? This was December of 25. This was Columbina. This was... Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, Genshin Impact, in terms of like overall like Google relevance, they hit their peak in like August, September of 24, which to roughly August, September of 24 was the start of Natlan, right? And then since Natlan, it's just been going down a cliff. Like there's nothing super impressive. And 33 now, this was for Columbina, and it's going up because of Snezhnaya. I do think it might reach the 40s, but I don't think it's going higher than that. And then if we take a look at rising queries, Rise League, Genshin Impact, Genshin Reddit, Wanderer, Ayaka, Arlecchino. Okay, now this is United States. Let's look at China. Because again, China should give us a different image. Again, I told you, China gives us a different image because December 2022 is when it reached its peak in China. And December of 2022 was Wanderer and the rerun. This was peak Genshin. In terms of interest, even in terms of revenue, this banner sold a lot, right? Wanderer, you had Raiden Shogun's rerun, so yeah. And then since then, it has been falling off a cliff, even in China, right? Like, but then you see how it was dropping a lot since the Wanderer days. it got pretty high with Not Cry, and then it fell off a cliff, and it's not been able to climb back ever since. But let's look at worldwide, right? Overall, we're starting to sort of see, like, what was this? March, April of 2025. What happened in March, April 2025? So during 5.5, this game was at its lowest it's ever been. What was this? Varesa. Okay. Makes sense. This one was Columbina. This one was Nod Cry. Yeah, like Nod Cry was a much needed lift globally, and then we're reaching 45. Sneznaya might bring it to like this level of End of Sumeru. Yeah, End of Sumeru, End of Fontaine levels, maybe. But okay, let's see. Genshin Impact map, Genshin code, Genshin map, whatever the fuck this is, whatever the fuck that is. Kazuha, Genshin Impact. Okay. So yeah, this game's revenue, it's not been able to match the peak that it once did. And like, you know, this was Columbina. Columbina made $66 million. But then you look at the Mavuika. Since Mavuika, this game has never been able to reach Mavuika levels. And April of 24 was Arlecchino and Nouvellette. So like, Mavuika broke. A lot of people left after Mavuika. That doesn't look too hot. Maybe the Saritsa might match it. But yeah, that's that's diabolical, bro.